Hello, good afternoon. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Our new book that we are going to start and hopefully finish by our last day of school is Ranger in Time D-Day Battle on the Beach. So I'm going to read the back before we get started. In an unforgettable battle, Ranger, a time-traveling golden retriever with searching and rescue training, heads to Normandy on the morning of the D-Day invasion. He finds himself in the middle of one of the fiercest battles of World War II. Ranger meets Leo, a Jewish boy who is hiding with the local farmer, and Walt, a young American soldier fighting to free France from the Nazis. It's pure chaos, with thundering warplanes, falling bombs, and exploding land mines. Will Ranger, Leo, and Walt survive? Let's find out. Chapter 1. The Longest Night. Hold on! Walt Burrell clung to the railing of the ship as it rocked on 5-foot waves. Holy cow. 36 men were packed together on his landing craft. It was one of thousands crossing on the English Channel on a mission to free France from the Nazis. The Allied invasion had begun. Last night, as Walt and the other men boarded the ship, they'd been handed an order of the day from General Eisenhower. You are about to embark on the great crusade, toward which we have striven these many months, the order read. The eyes of the world are upon you. The hopes and prayers of liberty-loving people everywhere march with you. Walt had folded the order and tucked it in a pocket. He had climbed on board with the other men to begin the longest night of his life. The sea was stormy and rough. Home seemed a lifetime away. Walt's stomach churned as the ship surged over another wave. He squeezed his eyes shut against the wind and rain and tried to remember his papa's farm in Virginia. For a moment, he could almost smell the rich earth baking cornbread he'd left behind when he joined the army. He was only 16, but he'd lied about his age and enlisted to fight for his country. Walt's unit, the 320th Barrage Balloon Battalion, had spent months at training camp in Tennessee. So before I move on, here's them on the boat. So I'm guessing this is probably our character here. Like many other soldiers, they'd woken up before dawn to go on 25-mile hikes through the woods. They'd run obstacle courses, crawling with their rifles under barbed-wired fences. But this unit had a special mission, handling the enormous barrage balloons that would fly over the American troops in France, keeping enemy planes away. Walt and the other men had practiced launching and maneuvering the car-sized balloons. The plan was to raise them over the beaches of Normandy, where the balloons would form a sort of defensive curtain in the sky, protecting Allied troops from German planes. And now it was time. The night journey across the sea had begun dark and murky. But suddenly the sky lit up in the distance. Searchlights swept the cliffs. The air thundered with the pounding of bombs. Allied forces were trying to knock out German defenses before Walt and the other men came ashore. You ready? Big Walt, his friend Ernst, shouted over the waves. Walt almost smiled at the joke. He was the skinniest man on his battalion. The nickname that had felt so light-hearted at training camp felt different here. Not a single man on the landing craft seemed big enough for what they were about to face on the beaches. The blast grew louder and louder as Walt's boat passed the battleships firing at shore. The sky was growing lighter now, even in the clouds and rain. The sea was crowded with smaller landing vessels like the one Walt was in. Waves sloshed over their sides and tossed them about as if they were toys in a bathtub. German machine guns' fire blasted over the water. Walt's heart thudded through his jacket. Would they even make it to land? Already 2 shells had exploded just feet from his boat, sending up great sprays of salt water. The gunfire was almost constant, but the landing craft pushed on toward the beach. Finally, someone shouted, "It's time!" The ship's ramp dropped with a great splash. "Let's move!" Another voice boomed, "Go!" Walt and the other men hurried down the ramp. One after another, they plunged into the frigid sea. The water was up to Walt's chest. Other men leaped into the waves and disappeared. Had their heavy packs pulled them under? Walt hesitated. A deep voice from behind him boomed, "You're not on a rescue ship! Get on shore!" "Keep your gun dry," someone else shouted. Walt held his rifle high over his head and stumbled forward. All around him, men staggered and fell. He didn't know if they'd been shot or knocked over by waves. There was no time to find out. He had to keep going, and he had to make it to the beach. Chapter 2. Early Morning Thunder. In a village just over the ridge from the sea, Leo Rubinstein sat up in bed. Thundering booms rattled the windows. Was there a storm? His sister Rebecca's black and white cat, Belle, jumped from his mattress to the floor. "Henry!" a deep voice called from the kitchen. Leo stood up. He was finally getting used to being called Henry. When Mamrie, his grandmother, had dropped him off at his farm 2 years ago, he had understood that he was no longer safe to be Leo Rubinstein, the Jewish boy from Paris. Now he was Henry Blanc, a Catholic boy staying with his uncle in Normandy for a while to help out on the farm. Leo felt the lie poke at him every time he had to tell it, but the truth was too dangerous. Nazi soldiers and the French police who worked with them were rounding up Jewish people all over France, taking them. No one was certain where. When Leo asked, Mamrie only told him to pray that the Allies would come soon to defeat the Nazis so they could be free again. So Leo had prayed, he had wished and hoped and prayed some more. He listened to the BBC radio reports when it was safe. He'd even tried to learn English from one of his father's university books, so he could talk to the American and English soldiers if they really ever came. Another blast shook the sky. Was this the day? Leo dressed and rushed downstairs. Mr. and Mrs. Blanc were in the kitchen, loading a basket with dried meats and bread. "What's happening?" Leo asked. "It has begun." Mr. Blanc tucked a satchel of coins into his sack. "The Allies are here to liberate France." "They really came?" Leo's heart leaped. But Mrs. Blanc said, "Now is no time to celebrate. With bombs falling from the sky, we must go." She picked up the basket, made a sign of the cross, and pushed Leo toward the door. "Go where?" If they weren't safe in the sturdy farmhouse, Leo couldn't imagine where they would be. The radio said to find a ditch or make one. Mrs. Blanc said they hurried through the morning rain past the garden. "I sent the older boys out to start," she pointed. Leo spotted Pierre and Miguel digging with shovels away out in the field. "You go on," Mr. Blanc told his wife. "Henry, come with me to free the animals." "What?" Leo was shocked. Last year, German soldiers had taken away the Blancs' horses to transport supplies. The family depended on their crows and chickens. Since the war started, there was never enough food to buy at the market. They were even forced to give away their milk. The Germans demanded 5 liters a day. Pierre and Michael, always stuck their fingers in the milk to put germs in it before they delivered it to the soldiers. "How will we get milk if we let the cows go?" Leo asked. "Better to set them free than see them crushed under debris when the next bomb falls," Mr. Blanc said as they ran to the barn. The animals already knew something was wrong. The chickens were squawking and fretting. The cows sounded nervously at the dirt. When Leo opened the gate, they practically stampeded into the road. When the last animal was freed, Mr. Blanc told Leo, "Go to the ditch now. I need to help old Mr. Dufort with his horses. I will be there soon." Leo nodded. He started running through the mud toward the ditch, but he paused to look up at the house. Could it really be bombed as the Allies advanced? How could the people they'd been waiting and hoping for end up doing the harm? Then Leo caught a flash of black and white in the window. "Belle!" So here's Leo, and he is letting those animals free. He darted back into the house and scooped up the cat. "You must come with us. Rebecca would never forgive me if I let harm come to you." Leo swallowed hard. He didn't know when he'd see his parents or sister ever again, but taking care of his sister's cat felt like a promise that it might happen someday. Leo ran to the window and searched the sky for planes. There was smoke, but nothing else he could see. So instead of going straight to the ditch, he ran down to the basement and pulled a flour canister from the shelf. Leo set Belle down carefully beside him and unscrewed the lid. The can wasn't full of flour. It held the crystal radio that Mr. Blanc used to listen to the BBC radio broadcast from England. This was forbidden by the Nazis, so every time the Blancs wanted news, they sent Leo out to the garden to play. Really, he was watching the German soldiers. He'd run inside to warn Mr. Blanc if there were any coming. Leo fiddled with the radio, hoping for news. Was it really happening now? How long would it take for the Allies to defeat the Nazis? Where was his family, and when would they be together again? Leo turned the buttons, but there was only static. Belle let out a meow, and then Leo heard another sound, a low buzz. It wasn't coming from the radio. Leo dropped the radio, grabbed the cat, and raced up the stairs to a window. 2 warplanes roared through the sky. They were headed straight for the house. I'll be back tomorrow to continue our new read aloud, Ranger in Time, D-Day Battle on the Beach. Have a great day.